Hey YouTube, I'm coming back on to talk about part 3 of my spiritual battles and my dealings with demonic and witchcraft. So I believe I left off at the part where I was talking about my little brother had came here to help me, and he was the only one that came to help me. He was the only one that came to my rescue. And his name is Michael. And he was sort of like my angel Michael that came to help me. Just like the angel Michael that kicked Satan out of heaven. And after Michael came, like I said, we went back home. Things were still happening. My little brother experienced a few things. I was telling y'all about the churches that had rejected me, and I was coming under a lot of criticism. I was coming out of a lot of attacks. It even got so bad that child protection was called on me because the neighbors heard me praying for my son. And I guess, I must have been rebuking Satan, or I must have been, just full of fire, trying to fight for my son the best way I knew how. And so child protection was called on me. So not only did I have to deal with all the other things that I was going through, and things at work that I was going through, and things in my personal life that I was going through, now all of a sudden child protection is at my son's school talking to him. Now, child protection wasn't called because I abused my son. Child protection was called because I was praying for my son, and I was doing something or speaking things that the neighbors didn't know nothing about. So instead of them helping me, they hurted me even more. God led us to a church. And I say he led us to a church because the place that he led us to, I was like a visitor to a foreign land. The majority, all the people in the church are from Nigeria. Me and my son were the only Americans there. But when I went to that church, they opened their arms to us, and they prayed for us, and they helped us. And they accepted everything that I had told them, because this type of thing was not uncommon for them. From where they come from, this type of thing happens all the time. Because in different cultures, people practice spiritualism. People practice, I guess they worship their ancestors, or they call upon their ancestors, or stuff like this. So the things that happened with us, it was nothing for this church. And they immediately started praying for us, and they immediately... One story that I need to say. Upon the first day that we walked into that church, a prophetess came into the church. She said she wasn't even going to come to church that day, but the Lord led her there. And from us being there, this woman that I never met before went into a trance. And she stayed in a trance for 7 days. And people were coming from all over to come and speak to her, or come and speak to the spirit that God had placed within her. For 7 days, people were coming from all over the country to get messages from God from this woman. And that was miraculous within itself. But at the same time, I'm an American. I ain't never experienced no type of thing like this before in my life. And I'm trying to take all this in, and I'm trying to handle it all. And I'm about to lose my mind. And I'm walking around every day with this feeling inside the pit of my chest that hurt. I had a soreness. I had a pain. And it's not like a pain you get when you're walking, but it was like a deep sorrow. It was like a deep sadness that I had inside of me, and it wouldn't go away. I could smile, And it's funny how God allows you to smile even through your pain. It's funny how God can show you a beautiful child and you can smile at that child, or that child can do something to touch your heart and you can smile even in the midst of sorrow. That's nobody but God. And while this woman was there, it's like you could see the angelic spirit that was over her, that was overwhelming her. And she told me things. And she got messages from God and told me to do this and told me to do that. And I'm taking all this in and I'm trying. But at the same time, little girl, born in Arkansas, lived in Mississippi, raised in Illinois, grew up in Baptist churches, Pentecostal churches. All this stuff that was happening, I ain't never experienced it before in my life. Ain't never dreamt about it. Ain't never had nightmares about it. And I'm talking about both parts of the spectrum, the good stuff and the bad stuff. Everything that happened was totally unbelievable. I remember the night before we first went to that church. One of my friends had let me stay in her house because I needed to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't rest. Even though I kept going through the motions like a robot, trying to act like I was okay, trying to move like I was okay. But my spirit had somehow left. I was like a robot, just going through the motions. And I remember that night my son had got an attack. And he wasn't able to see. He was blind. And we prayed. And then after a while, he was okay. And I got up that day. First of all, I want to say that it's good to have friends. Because me, I don't have a lot of friends. And I don't have no family here, no immediate family. All my family is away from, not out of the state. So the only people that I have is my son's side of the family, which are the same people, Sudanese people, that for whatever reason did what they did to my son when he was in Africa. You see? So even at the same time that I had a deep-rooted fear, it was like God was still putting me with these people. Even to the point right now, this is where me and my son lives. After we ran away from them for 2 years because I feared them, when me and my son lost everything, and we had been in a shelter, and I had had a nervous breakdown, I had to be put inside a mental institution, so on and so forth. I got in a real bad relationship, and when all the shit hit the fan, we still have to go back to his people. So, I want to get into more detail of what happened. I want to get into more detail of what I experienced. I want to get into more detail of what I seen and what I heard. And I'm not really trying to drag this story out, but it's so many different turns and different twists. And it's like my mind recalls everything, but it recalls things in certain stages. You know, and I want to say things as they happen, but it's like 1 minute my mind will go here and I need to tell you this, and another minute my mind will go there and I need to tell you that. But like I say, the other churches rejected us. And at this church that God took us to is called Celestial Church of Christ. When I got there, they opened their arms for us. They prayed for us. There wasn't no people talking behind my back or whispering in front of my face. Psst, 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 and that she thinks this happened, and she thinks she seen this, and she thinks that happened, and that, and no, that didn't happen, and no, you didn't experience that, and no, this is not what's going on with your son, and you're just imagining things, and this is this, and this, and this, and this, and that. No. They knew it. They didn't doubt me. And I appreciated that from the bottom of my heart. I appreciated that. That church was different. They go by Old Testament ways. You can't wear shoes within that church. You have to wear all white. The women have to cover their heads. As growing up as a Baptist or Pentecostal, we had crosses around us all the time, but we never had crucifixes around us. This church has crucifixes in it everywhere. They burn candles and they burn incense, the same incense that were used inside the Bible in Old Testament times, of frankincense and different things like that. So the whole experience was different and new and strange to me at the same time. But this is where God put us. And then God gave us things to do. He would send messages to us through his prophets of things to do that he wanted me to do, and do this and do that, and it was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of things I never heard of. A lot of things I never experienced. But I did the best I could to do what I felt God wanted me to do. And I have to tell y'all that immediately, I had never fasted before in my life. Immediately, y'all, I started fasting. It was like an instinct. It was like an instinctual thing to immediately start fasting and praying for my son like never before. I mean, the first fast, I did a 30-day fast. I did fruits and vegetables and water after 4. After that, I did a 40-day fast. After that, I did a 3-day fast, no food, no water. After that, I did a 7-day fast, no food, only water. And this went on for a while. Not to mention that I gave up everything. I gave up the weed smoke that I used to do. I gave up the drinking. I was never an alcoholic or none of that kind of stuff ever in my life, but it was like a social thing. You know, I gave up listening to types of music that I was listening to. I was going to church all the time. All the time. I was in my Bible all the time. I wasn't I didn't have no man, so I wasn't doing none of the stuff you do with a man. I was trying my best to live a holy life, you know, because I thought that maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this was because of me. Maybe it's because of the way I was living. You know, you trying to get answers, and you trying to search for the truth, and you trying to figure out what is what is what is what. I'm watching my watch, y'all, because I don't want to go over the time limit, and I don't want to stretch this out and make it too much. But the story, my story is so deep, and my story is so profound, and it's amazing what God can bring you through. Before, I used to say, why me, why me? And at times I still say, why me, why me? But it must be something about me and something about my son that irritates the hell out of Satan. He must have a deep-rooted fear of whatever it is that God planted inside of me before I was born. And I know that God has a mission for me. I know that God has a plan for me that will be fulfilled. Because the way I feel, and I'm using YouTube as a forum right now, I want to take everything that God has in me and tear Satan's kingdom down. People need to know that he is real. People need to know that he hates us. People need to know that he will do anything to destroy God's people, even attacking a single mother and a fatherless child. Who am I To society, I'm nobody. I've lost everything and I am poor. But to God, I am somebody. And in God, I am somebody. And I must be a powerful sister. I must be a powerful evangelist. I must be a powerful speaker. I must have a spirit inside of me that cannot be held down, cannot be sat on, cannot be spit on anymore, cannot be talked about anymore, cannot be belittled anymore. There is something in me that is so powerful and so strong that Satan hates the sight of me. For him to try to destroy me and take away my most precious commodity, which is my mind. And instead of God allowing him to take my mind, God has enriched my mind with even more. And when I get done, Satan will regret the day that he didn't kill me when he had a chance to. He will regret the day that he allowed me to be able to speak, because he tried to take away my ability to speak. I will walk around quiet with my head down, and my words will get caught up in my chest, in my throat, to the point where I couldn't even form words sometimes vocally, because I was in so much pain. But God has allowed me to speak, and he has allowed me to speak with reverence, loudly, boldly, full of emotion, full of power, and full of strength. And as God is my witness, I will put a dent in Satan's kingdom. Watch out, Satan, because there's a Bigfoot coming to your face, and it's going to leave a mark. I will do everything in my power and in my will to bring my brothers and sisters to Christ. I will do everything in my power and my will to bring my brothers and sisters to Christ. Things happening in the world for a reason, people. Wake up. You're fighting and there's confusion, people, for a reason. Wake up. Know that there is something greater here than you. There is a power here. There's a force here that is against you, that is against your children, that is against the will of God. Wake up. You don't have to go through what I've been through. You don't have to see what I've seen. You don't have to feel what I've felt to know that it is real. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up from your sleeping. Wake up from your slumber. Shake your spirits up. Shake your spirits up. Stop worshiping all these inanimate objects and worship Father God Almighty. He is a jealous God. And all he wants is for us to love him like he loves us. Wake up, people. Wake up.